just imagined it. I didn't know. All I knew was I was in a cold sweat.
Good evening, all my creatures, creeps, cretins, and ghouls. Dr. Zombo here with another episode of Zounds on the flip side. And tonight, we have a very special guest, as we always do, but this one in particular is always a part of Dr. Zombo's world. I will introduce to you Mr. Kain himself from Psycholand. How are you doing this evening, Mr. Kain?
Absolutely fucking groovy. How you doing, man?
That is exactly what I like to hear. Everybody knows that I like my guests comfortable, easygoing, just chill as fuck. Can't get any chiller than hanging out with family now, can you?
Yeah, also I'm a little bit fucking high, so that helps a little bit too.
I'm used to it, mister. I know you. I know you very well. If it's not crack and whores and tacos.
No, I stay away from crack unless it's part of the anatomy. But hell, legal weed here in California is absolutely fucking awesome.
Hey, you know what? As long as it floats your boat. Up where I'm at, we got it too, and I'll tell you, what did they do to my weed? I used to just like go get weed as a kid, and you had to smuggle it home in your asshole, and then roll it up. Oh, sorry. Put it in a pop can.
Oh, God,
take
those
out
days,
seeds.
yeah.
It's stimulating, mind expanding, safer to use than alcohol. It's the in thing, the hula hoop of the jet generation, and as much a part of growing up as smoking corn silk behind the back fence. Such are the myths concerning marijuana. Myths that lull thousands of young people into experimenting with the noxious weed. The facts are otherwise. Marijuana is an intoxicating, mind-muddling drug. Its use can lead to abnormal behavior, to psychological dependence, and to abuse of other drugs. The human brain, after all, is made for thinking, not fumigating. It's hardly a tinker toy for experimenting with drugs. This has been the public service message of the American Medical Association and your local station.
So, Mr. Kain, what the fuck were we talking about?
Oh, shit.
Hey.
Shit. I didn't realize we're still on this fucking interview. My bad. You go ahead.
How's everything been going with Psycholand?
Oh, wow. Roller coaster. I had a band before Psycholand, and we went for like about 10 years, and honestly, we didn't get the same amount of attention within those 10 years that we're starting to get with Psycholand, and we just started like about a year ago. So it's been interesting. We've gotten a couple of record labels coming to talk to us, but a lot of the deals weren't really that great because we're not coming into this whole thing trying to find fame and fortune. We're trying to just do something that we like to do and make money from it, and that's really the excuse me. That's really the bottom line. And so I'm going into these A&R meetings, not looking to be the next flash in the pan. I don't want to be the next Machine Gun Kelly or whoever the fuck is new that's so hot and everybody loves them and all that shit. I don't want to be that. People like that always get constantly torn down real quick and all that. I'd rather build a fan base organically. So I've gone into a few of these A&R meetings, and they've been really great, really nice people, but a lot of their focus is it seems very one track. They only want to focus on one area, which is mostly generating as much music as you absolutely possibly can, as much as you can, as fast as you can, Sorry, I had a pop up. Generate as much music as fast as you can, as much as you can, so they can slam it out and make as much money on their end as possible. And I haven't been in the industry as long as some, but I've been in at least a good 10 plus years, I'll just say that. And I know enough to know that that will lead to absolute fucking burnout. That will kill your spirit and your enthusiasm, and your only focus will be, oh God, I haven't churned out enough music this month, or I haven't done this, or man, I've hit writer's block. You know, how am I going to churn out music with writer's block? Well, there's extra pressure on that. I don't want to be a part of that shit, you know?
Yeah.
I want to create music on our own terms, in our own way, let it flow out, let it, you know, kind of do the Rob Zombie approach of, if it isn't fun, then I ain't going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the approach, you know. So I told a lot of a couple of people, you know, that, you know, maybe we can explore something down the road, but right now I wasn't interested. And I mean, they weren't really offering me anything that I couldn't do on my own anyways, which is what we're doing right now. Is we're pretty much doing everything on our own. All money spent is coming out of our pockets. I'm actually thinking about looking into sponsorships and everything, because it's getting expensive.
It's probably a good time for that, because I mean, just from the promotion that I see you do, the music that you have put out, the videos that you got going out, the way that you're getting the word spread around, you've got your place, and you're in all the right places. And it's a good album. It's a very good album, very well put together, lots of heart. And I think you're already on the right path. The only difference is they've got people do that shit for you. So it's almost like, hey, I could shit on my own floor and have somebody clean it up and pay them $10,000 or owe them, or I could shit on my floor and clean it up myself.
I'm seeing all
for any of you out there that are watching this show for the first time, we're talking to Mr. Kain. Mr. Kain has been a part of this show with his music and Psycholand since right around the beginning. So this has been going on, what, 2 years now? A little over 2 years?
Yeah.
Almost
Yeah,
3 years.
God,
I
it's been-
started in
wow.
2020.
Yeah, it's time flies when you got the runs, man. It's I didn't realize it had been that long. Shit.
I can't talk
Yeah.
about the runs right now. I just got off 4 days of that shit.
How are you
Seriously.
feeling, by the way?
Fucking hell lot better now that I lost 40 pounds, but hey, you know,
Yeah.
I will have to say, if you ever wonder, the only thing that is a downside to a composting toilet is when you're fucking sick and it's full.
Oh,
It's winter time. You think I want to go out in the rain and the cold with body chills to dump out my shit bucket? I don't think so.
yeah. God, I don't envy that situation. Wow.
No, it's a whole to do. It's like a little dance what is it? Contortion act. You know, you get into your little closet, you sit on your bucket, you got a anyway. Moving on.
Sounds glamorous, man.
I've enjoyed the music that you've thrown out there, and you've actually given a extra level to the show, in my opinion. It's nice to have a close collaborator that's always churning out good shit. And when I say churning out, that's probably the wrong word, because churning, it implies that it's, you know, I'm just cranking it. No,
I got you.
it's just coming from somewhere. It's well engineered. It's well put together. It's well oiled. And it's crisp. There's no weird hums or shit like that. It just fucking flows. So
yeah,
I've always been a fan. And
I spent a good 4 years trying to perfect our sound. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of the I've said this in other interviews before, but a lot of the music, the sound comes from Mr. Severe. He is the guy who makes a lot of it sound that good. He is really, really good at putting together emotional songs. I'm more, whenever I sit down and write, I try writing in that way, and most of my shit comes out sounding more pop rock. Like if you listen to Clocktease and you listen to the song Psycholand or Gomorrah, that's my contribution, you know, and you'll notice that there is somewhat of a distinct difference between our styles. But they all kind of mesh in a way. But a lot of, when you're talking about, you know, there's no background noise or whatever going on, a lot of recording mistakes. I've spent, God, how long have I been doing that? I think I got introduced to recording music when I was about 18. I was just living on my own, and I was trying to start or join a band. Trying to join a band as a singer, and they had this little 4-track recorder, and that's where I got my first taste of recording music. And so I bought myself an 8-track recorder and started messing around with that, and eventually moved to digital and on computers. But I still had a lot of those recording mistakes up until, well, probably those 4 years that I spent trying to master master how to mix and master music. A lot of it comes down to, you'll hear a lot of stuff because people aren't doing these tricks that, you know, you do in the studio. Like with guitar and stuff, sometimes you have to get stuff to dampen some of the hum and noise, or you gotta do all these other tricks. I'm not really that familiar with recording guitar, but like with vocals, you got to do certain specific things. Isolate, like there's a closet right back there. That's actually where I record all my vocals. It's a walk-in closet. Nice. It's a very small walk-in closet that has clothing in it to dampen the noise. And then I have multi-track in there. It's a standalone recorder that I import all stuff onto the computer. Anyways, I sing into that through a processor on the microphone. The processor just brings up the sound. I don't add any effects or anything onto it until I put it onto the computer. But yeah, I've listened to a lot of underground music and these days, and I'm actually surprised with all the technology they have these days. I'm really surprised that there isn't more good quality sounding stuff, because the tools are out there.
Yeah.
But a lot of times what happens, this is just my guess from my own screw ups in the past. My guess is that a lot of times they will just start plugging in, jamming, like the sound themselves. Maybe a few of their friends like it, and so they'll present it to the world. Well, there's a difference between your friends liking it and the world liking it. It's a completely different audience. And so my best advice on that for any artist is don't get advice from your friends. I mean, and if you have a friend who's got, if you've got a friend who's critical and will just tell you how it is, then yeah, let them hear it. But you cannot get better feedback than putting shit out there for the world to see, because god damn it, people will tell you exactly how they feel about it.
Oh yeah. Hey, I know that shit just from the show alone. And sound has always been the biggest boon for me, because I've got a boom mic on my camera. So I literally have to do with what I can, you know what I mean, with what I got. But it is the biggest thing that bugs the shit out of me.
Talk to me after the show. I might have some advice or whatever for how to fix that. You know, maybe a lavalier microphone or whatever might help with that.
Yeah, I had a couple of those, but they were fucking UHF. Have you ever seen those? You basically put a dongle in your fucking laptop, and it goes on. It sends out a UHF signal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But they sounded like shit. They were horrible. It was like fucking screaming into a fucking soup can.
Well, the one that I use is for my iPhone. It plugs directly into it. So you might have to buy a few and test them out and see what works. But mine has a cord. I've never used a wireless before, so I'm not really sure how good they are. I guess when it comes to wireless, if it's anything like buying music equipment, you should probably spend more.
Oh yeah.
Because if you buy like something for 10 or 50 bucks or $100 or whatever, well, I'd say 25 to 50 bucks is probably too cheap for that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you buy something like that, you're probably going to get a lot of feedback or faulty. It's probably made in China and a crappy product.
Yeah,
I'm only saying that because I've been ripped off. If
it's on the discount shelf from Walmart and says the super duper lavalier mic, it's probably not a bargain.
I'm only saying that because a lot of times when I'm ordering props on like Amazon or whatever, I'll wind up getting something in the mail and it'll be all completely fucked up, and I find out it came from China. So I try not to order. Unfortunately, I would love to order from just anywhere, but it seems like a lot of faulty products come out of there now. You
know how many weird costume pieces I've gotten that look very nice, very debonair, swanky. I get it in. It basically looks like it, but then I put it on, and even though it says 3XL, it's like a 2S.
Yes, I know.
Squeeze into it like a tuna in a fucking net.
That's another thing I learned about ordering props and all that, and costumes and everything overseas, or even just regular clothing. Their sizes are smaller than ours, which is kind of weird because here in California, sizes are on the small side. I actually, as a normal, regular big person, have to shop at big and tall stores here. in order to just get regular clothing that, like when I was living in West Virginia, whatever, I just pop out to a Walmart, get a pair of jeans. It was no big deal. But here I got to go to fucking big and tall.
Oh,
And overseas, there's shit. Some of the countries, their sizes are even smaller. It's
yeah.
crazy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's like I've literally bought some really nice like pirate coats and shit like that.
Mhm.
And I now know the trick. It doesn't matter what anyone's review says. It doesn't matter what the size chart says. For me, an extra large fits nice and comfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I could get
Yeah.
away with an American large, but if I want it to fit and I know it's coming from somewhere because the price is fucking too cheap and I know damn well, I just get 3XL, 4XL, whatever the biggest size is, because I know it's still going to be tight somewhere.
Yeah, I usually end up ordering a large and an extra large, and then throwing away or donating or whatever the one that I don't have.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even the fucking pants, man, I put the fuckers on. Hey, these fit great. Get them up to my waist, and I was like, why do I have fucking booty shorts? You know, like my ass crack is hanging. I was like, I don't
that could
need
be a
no
sexy
low
look for
rise.
the doctor, man.
Hey, you know what? We could talk about that later, sweetie. Ah,
Do a whole strip show for the doctor.
hey, you
Bring
know,
all your
don't get me
guests on.
fucking started. I was watching Rocky Horror Picture Show the other day, and I swear to God, I was like, I have to fucking reenact Frankenfurter coming down the fucking elevator. You know, his how'd you do? Glad to see you. You know, just
Perfect.
come out. Oh, dude, I can sound just
That'd
like
be beautiful. You should do it.
I'm thinking
Absolutely.
about it. I have a corset, but I can't get the fucker around anymore. It's just too goddamn
that
tight.
would be spectacular. Do a Rocky Horror special for Dr. Zumbo. That'd be awesome.
Oh God, dude, it would be a fucking disaster. Back to Psycholand.
Mm.
If you don't mind me asking, what are some of your humble beginnings? How did Psycholand become? Because I know you had projects before, and I've always been curious if it kind of morphed into Psycholand. Or how did this all start?
Where to begin? Psycholand was kind of a, I guess you could call it a spin-off of my last band, because my last band was kind of falling apart. Mr. Severe kind of joined the ranks because I wasn't really sure if it was entirely falling apart or not. And eventually when it did, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And so he and I started the side project, which was Psycholand. And as we started going along, I realized that this shit was beyond anything I'd ever worked on before. And so I knew that I had to drop everything else because I was going to do another band, which I may do in the future, of Godless American. But I decided to drop everything because this shit was gold. I mean, I'm myself, I'm a decent musician, but I'm pale in comparison to Mr. Severe. And so I pretty much dropped everything. And then we started working on the album probably, I'd say a few months before the pandemic hit. And I really wasn't going at it full force. I was working on things here and there, I was also dealing with a lot of things in my personal life, and which actually kind of came out in the album. But when the pandemic hit, basically nobody had anything to fucking do. And so we're like, all right, well, how's this? Then we started tossing each other songs, and a lot of the stuff a lot of my stuff just didn't fly because they weren't as good as his. That was basically both of us kind of voting, because a lot of the stuff that stayed ended up being his because it's just that damn good. How Clocktease came about, I'm still kind of interested. I find this kind of interesting, and I feel bad for somebody. Clocktease, most of the music on that was actually written for somebody else. Mr. Severe had written a lot of the songs, including Mr. Suicide, You're the Worst, Gaslight. Well, no, not Gaslight. You're the Worst, Mr. Suicide, Something Wicked, and a couple others. He wrote them for somebody else, but she decided to pass on them. I guess I don't know. He basically came to me, when we were passing each other songs, and he's like, I wrote all these songs for this one chick, and she just hasn't gotten back to me, and I don't think she's going to. It's been several weeks. And then he sent them to me as, I think, kind of an ego booster because he's feeling really down. And I listened to them and I said, are you fucking kidding me? She passed on this shit? Well, then give it to me. Fuck it. Let's do something with this. Let's make this a part of what we're, And so her passing on it turned into Clocktease, and I'm still amazed by that. And I feel kind of bad for her because she could have had some really good stuff.
Did the name Clocktease come out before or after the incident of the turn?
After we brainstormed beforehand. Actually, that's kind of our thing. It's mostly my thing, but Mr. Severe does it too. We usually brainstorm on album ideas throughout the whole writing process. And a lot of times we don't go into these things like, okay, we're going to start writing an album now. It's just I'll work on songs, except for Clocktease, we were kind of basically going, okay, we're going to write this album and so on. But I mean, most of the time, we're just working on music, and suddenly we realize we might have enough for an album. We start discussing, okay, well, what do we want to do for that, and so on. Clocktease, that was Mr. Severe's idea. He named the album. We were passing around, a lot of times in the beginning, we will pass around album names that we know absolutely will not make the cut, just complete off the wall random jokes and everything.
Right. Like shit sandwich or
pretty much things like that. Well, the band name was actually going to originally be called Jackhammer Mary, but that only lasted for about 1 or 2 months. And we were passing around names kind of in the same way we were doing album names. And Jackhammer Mary came about. I think I mentioned this. I don't remember no, that's right. I haven't mentioned this on this show. How that came about was we were, again, the joke names and all that. And we were coming up with off the wall names because we were scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I brought up this website called Divine Interventions, and they have this this dildo on there called the Jackhammer Jesus. And so we passed around the idea of calling ourselves Jackhammer Jesus, but realizing we'd probably get sued, just like Green Jello got sued for using the name Jello. Didn't want that to happen, so we thought about, okay, we'll just call ourselves Jackhammer Mary. Maybe we'll have a jackhammer on the logo and a chick on her back with her legs back, and we're coming up with all kinds of weird ideas. And
weed will do that to you.
Yeah. And that lasted for about a month, and the song Psycholand had already been written. Psycholand is the name that the nickname that I used to give Facebook, but it's pretty much what I call most social media these days. Just people, mob mentality type social media app type usage and shit. So I was, Psycholand is pretty much was originally written about Facebook, but then spread out to like Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that. So anyways, we, again, I brought back, I said, Jackhammer Mary just isn't working for me. I don't think anyone's going to ever get the joke. And I think if anyone listens to the music, they're going to be like, where the fuck's Mary? Why isn't she singing, So I didn't want that to happen.
Let me say this.
Hmm.
Between the story of somebody rejecting this unnamed female, we'll just say,
Yeah, I don't remember what her name is.
whoever that was rejecting the music. I know some of the backstory that from conversations we've had.
Yeah.
You put those two together, Clocktease is a perfect fucking name for the album. And it really does sound like two freight trains of different aggression and emotion colliding in between, saying, fuck you. And I love it.
In a rather chaotic but beautiful way. I have to thank Mr. Severe for that. He does a really great job of combining chaos and tension with sadness, and sometimes there's some resolve. And I say that kind of oddly because if you know Mr. Severe, he's got a lot more self-esteem problems than I do. He deals with depression and self-image issues way more than I do. And so him, me saying, if he heard me saying that he wrote music with resolve and, beauty and all that, he would probably be embarrassed. He's a very quiet guy, but I tell you get him talking about he's kind of like me. We both reached, middle age, we're shaking our fists at the world and so on. You get him talking about some things these days that piss him off. I'm going to try to get him in front of the camera one of these days.
I was just coming to the $1 million question. I was just coming to the $1 million question. Who is this Mr. Severe? I know he's part of the band. I have never seen him. I don't know who he is. I don't even know where he's from.
He's very camera shy. He's from the Gold Coast in Australia. I met him while I was doing my last band. He actually came to me after hearing several of our songs and asked if he could remix some of them. And interestingly enough, I almost said no. I almost passed on it because I was, I think I was kind of full of myself at that point. I'm not really sure. I think at that moment I felt like I was too good for that kind of shit or something. I don't remember, but I remember I was very arrogant, and I'm glad that I let that arrogance go.
Right.
Because at that moment I was like, we haven't really done any remixes for our songs, and it would be nice to introduce some new stuff. Why not? Let's see what happens. And from that started everything on the path to Psycholand.
Nice.
I listened to his stuff and I was just completely blown away. And this was after I'd released a third album with my last band. And I was about ready to retire. Well, not retire, but, go on hiatus for a while because I was burnt out. And oddly enough, because I met him, my burnout has continued up until this day because I knew once I listened to his stuff that I couldn't pass on the opportunity. It was just, he was such a brilliant musician. And he is such a nice guy that I had to work with him, and it just continued on from there. He is very amazing. Camera shy. He does not like social media. He hasn't been on Facebook in like 2 years or something like that.
So he leaves you to do all the dirty work?
Pretty much. We at Psycholand are very, we feel very strongly about promoting healthy mental health situations. I don't call them mental health disorders. I used to for a long, long time. And it occurred to me one day, it's not a fucking disorder. I just am different than other people. And, the definition these days of normal isn't really normal. There is no real definition unless you want to talk about people who can adapt and cope with every single thing in the world. And you notice that almost everybody in the world is kind of on medication. So really, what is normal?
Right.
So I've stopped, for my own personal thing, I've stopped calling it, and we don't call it mental health disorders. We call it mental health situations. And, like myself, I'm type 2 bipolar, PTSD, severe depression, self-esteem issues, just like Mr. Severe. His are way worse than mine. Stuff like that. And we try to, like on our pages on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that, we try not to promote anything that might be harmful to someone's mental health. We try to promote positivity and mental health because, we put out these videos, like if you ever watch Gaslight, there's some parts that are pretty fucking gory on that,
That was brilliant. Very brilliant.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But we don't want to give people the impression that we're doing these music videos about being psycho and we're insane but we don't want people. I personally don't want people to think that we are demeaning psychiatric situations in any way, because we're not. We're actually kind of saying, hey, we can relate. We have this going on. We're coming from experience.
Yeah, you're coming from not just experience, but acceptance of knowing what you are, where you're at with it.
Right, and because
that's crucial.
I've had people all my life say fucked up things about me, just towards me, since I was a little kid, just saying, I still have emotional scars from that. To this day, there are times where I have to remind myself that I'm not doing anything wrong, that I'm an adult now and that I can live life how I want to. For up until I was probably late 30s or so, I pretty much was always second guessing myself and doubting myself, lots of negative self-talk, like calling myself cocksucker and dumb fuck and how could you be such a fucking idiot and stuff like that. And after even after a lot of therapy, I was still doing that. And one day it kind of occurred to me that I gotta leave the baggage that other people placed on me behind.
Absolutely.
And there was a lot of baggage, man. I had people, I would love to say that I had a typical high school experience where you had the high school bully picking on you, but I had a lot more than just one bully picking on me. It was like more than 10. It was a lot. I had a lot of people ganging up on me a lot throughout school. I moved around a lot as a kid, and so a lot of times I was always the new kid. And so by the time I got to a school where I was, staying there the whole time, I was kind of used to being the fish out of water, and I stopped trying to get people to accept me. And I started going the opposite direction, and I started trying to piss people off, and that did not help my situation whatsoever.
No, but so it feels kind of good.
Yeah, that was actually kind of the start of who I became. But I learned a long time ago, you need to know when to shut the fuck up. But, bottom line is I've had a lot of people, even before I became an adult, treat me like shit. And so I understand mental health situations. And, when I was actually went to college at Cypress College, I was doing some radio stuff there. I was managing it and helping some students start up shows and everything. And I helped these students They were probably, I don't know, early 20s, late 20s, and so on. They were disabled from all walks of life, from the disabled community, and they had disabled they had classes where disabled people would go on campus and learn different stuff. It was a certain program set up. I'm not really sure the ins and outs of it, but anyways, I ended up meeting a lot of disabled people, and they found out that we were doing radio, and this one lady was like, oh man, I really would like to start a show and talk about some of the things that we have to go through all the time. And a light bulb popped in my head. I'm like, ding, why the fuck isn't that on the radio? That's brilliant. We need more disabled people. And this is back before podcast became a huge thing or whatever, like 2007, 2008. And so I basically, I put together a radio show. They weren't skilled enough to run the thing. So I ran it as a host, but basically, I started the show talking, and hey, welcome to the show, blah, 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 introduce everybody. Then I start tossing out a few questions, and then I completely let them take over and let them talk about, a low one on the conversation, I throw out another question. And people loved that show because everybody had this, including myself, and this, I'm ashamed to admit this, but everybody that I talked to had this impression of disabled people like, oh, they love each other. Everybody loves each other, and it's all hugs.
They're people too.
Oh my God, they are worse to each other than non-disabled people. They call each other sorry, I hate this word, but they call each other retard all the time. And I'm thinking to myself, aren't you bothered by that? And a lot of times they'll look at me and say, yeah, but I'm not retarded. Okay, well, that says a lot about me, thinking that.
Dude, I know. I had an experience one time. I was walking to the bank down in Arizona, walking to the bank, going to cash my check. It's hot as balls outside. There's a disabled school just for disabled kids. You know what I mean? On the way there, I'm always walking by. They're playing, having a good fucking time, right? Pay no attention. I had this little kid, and I mean, he's like contorted and shit. Like he's pretty. And this kid had balls of steel. He came up to the fence, started throwing shit. He's all freak. And I was like, that is awesome. A first in my life. I'm going to shut my mouth and I'm going to keep on fucking walking. But goddamn, that warms my heart.
Yeah.
What a ballsy little fucker.
Yeah.
To our viewers, Mr. Kain here may be popping up on the next season of Dr. Zombie. We're not going to say anything too solid just yet because we are concocting in the background. Because see, Mr. Kain's got a very deep story that people don't know yet. And Dr. Zombo's World is getting ready to release that. I will say this. I love working with you, Mr. Kain. I absolutely adored having you on. I'm sorry it's been so fucking long.
That's okay.
I get lost in my own shit sometimes. I'm just running around in circles, and I'm sure you understand how that goes.
I've been going through some shit myself, so I understand. Not a problem.
To everybody out there, you have been here on Zounds from the Flip Side with my guest, Mr. Kain from Psycholand. If you don't know, you do now. Now go check out his shit. He's all over the place. Anywhere that you can find music, you can find Psycholand. Put him on your playlist. Or go rock out, Scott's out. He puts out whatever fucking sort you upload it. And you got both. Right on. Go do your thing. Have a good fucking time with it. Good night to all of you.